From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Uban.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, ASUU sets a call of strike, lecturers ready to return to classrooms to end about 6 months of face-off with the government. INEC tells the states under emergency rule not to expect conduct of elections for the time being. The Nigerian police obtains court judgments, demolishes over 500 houses on a huge land area said to belong to them. And South Sudan's President Salva Kiir confirms attempted coup but says the soldiers are loyalists of his deputy.
And then business news tonight, federal government warns telecommunication companies over poor quality of service, threatens sanctions.
And on sports news tonight, English Premier League sides Manchester City and Arsenal draw tough opponents in the knockout phase of the Champions League.
I'm Linda Kibe, and from Abuja, Minister of Interior gives assurance of availability of Nigerian passport 24 hours after application, effective from January 1st, 2014.
Begin tonight with the ongoing meeting of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, still holding about now at the Federal University of Technology, Minna, Niger State. Although it is a closed-door meeting, but there are very strong indications that the leadership of the union is set to call off the strike tonight. For over 13 hours today, members of ASUU have been sitting at the institution's conference center discussing issues relating to the MOU signed by the government, the general impact of the strike on students, lecturers and their parents. Sources say that the lecturers are using the session to design how to cover lost grounds for the students also. One of the highlights of the meeting also is how to protect lecturers from victimization from the school authorities or the federal government. Present at the meeting are all the branch chairmen and secretaries of ASUU and the national executive members of the body. 56 members from 52 universities are in attendance at the meeting. We'll have more on that later. In the meantime, although the nation is still awaiting the announcement of the call-off of the strike action, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, Dr. Doyo Kokwe, is commending the ASUU leadership for taking steps to end the strike action. Dr. Kokwe, in an interview with Channels Television in Abuja, saluted the patriotism of the university lecturers and their commitment to the development of education in the country. He urged the lecturers to ensure that the fund provided by the government is used for the provision of infrastructure in the nation's ivory towers. We'll have more on the Academic Staff Union of Universities much later. But on to preparation for elections now. The Independent National Electoral Commission has insisted that it will not conduct any election in areas affected by the state of emergency. At a forum in the National Assembly, Chairman of the Commission, Professor Tahiru Jega, explained that the security situation in the area cannot guarantee the conduct of a credible election. He added that he also advised against the conduct of the Yobe State local government election, which is scheduled to hold on December the 28th.
We are working very closely with security agencies, and our hope is that the challenges in the Northeast will long be addressed before 2015 election. Otherwise, if the security is such that we cannot do elections, we will have to fall back on the provisions of the law to see whether we can postpone the election or whether we can cancel it. You know, if it makes a difference in the return, then obviously you have to find a way in terms of when to do it and how. Our hope is that really, and I think that's what we should all be working towards and praying for, is that these challenges will be solved or dramatically reduced, such that we may be able to do elections in a substantial majority of the places in these states. But what is clear is that you cannot conceivably do an election under a period of emergency, because again, it's clear that there is generalized insecurity, and if there is generalized insecurity, how can you do election on that? The situation in that area under general emergency is such that you cannot do a free, fair, and credible election. And we've always advised, let us carry on and see whether that situation will change remarkably enough to be able to do an election. Otherwise, we will be going through the ritual. You can come and either it will be disrupted or people will not come out, and so ideally elections should not hold under a period of emergency. But whether people hold it or not depends on what the assessment of the security is on the ground.
INEC Chairman Professor Tahiru Jega, the efforts of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the Legion in ensuring peace in and outside the country have received commendation from President Goodluck Jonathan. While launching the 2014 Armed Forces Remembrance Day emblem in Abuja, the President eulogized them for protecting the territorial integrity of the nation and for contributing to global peace, while promising that the government will continue to enhance the welfare of the legionnaires. The President directed all public officers to wear the emblem until the Armed Forces Remembrance Day on January 15th, 2014.
The men and women of our armed forces have always shown great courage and served our nation so bravely. These distinguished patriots devoted the significant part of their lives to the service of our great country and to global peace and security. And by their selfless service, many in Nigeria and abroad are today secure, strong, vibrant, and united. Let me at this point especially thank those who donated last year for this cause, and also those who donate this year. I also like to encourage all Nigerians to procure and wear these emblems with pride throughout the remembrance period. In fact, for those who have opportunity to have interactions with me within this period, if you don't wear it, please don't feel embarrassed because they will turn you back. It will be a requirement for all our staff and visitors to wear the emblem to gain access into all government establishments. I personally will put on the emblem from today to the end of the remembrance period, that is 15th of January next year.
President Goodluck Jonathan. To legal matters now, and Ikeja High Court in Lagos has adjourned the trial of a former managing director of Finbank PLC, Mr. Okenwosu, and 3 others indefinitely. Mr. Wosu and 3 former directors, Mr. Dayo Famuroti, Mr. Danjuma Ocholi, and Mrs. Agnes Ebubedike, were charged for allegedly stealing 10.9 billion naira belonging to Finbank, now First City Monument Bank. The presiding judge, Justice Latifa Tukunu, adjourned the matter indefinitely due to 3 separate judgments delivered by the Court of Appeal, Lagos Division, on November the 21st. The Court of Appeal had in the judgment struck out the theft charges preferred against Mr. Wosu, Famuroti, and Ebubedike by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The Appellate Court held that the Lagos High Court lacked the jurisdiction to entertain the charges because they emanated from capital market transactions. It also held that such a capital market-based case should be handled by the Federal High Court. During today's proceedings, the counsel to Ocholi, Mr. Larry Ogunesi, urged the court to dismiss the charge against his client because of the appeal court's judgment. The EFCC's counsel, Mr. Rotimi Jacobs, a senior advocate of Nigeria, however, informed the court that the prosecution had filed an appeal against the 3 judgments at the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the Lagos High Court has also sitting in Ikeja has fixed February 12, 2014 for the arraignment of Mr. Fred Ajudua on fresh charges of defrauding a former Chief of Army Staff, retired Lieutenant General Ishaya Bamai, of over $8.3 million. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, in the fresh charges dated October 14, 2013, alleged that Mr. Ajudua, along with others still at large, had committed the crime between November 2004 and June 2005. Mr. Ajudua, along with other suspects, are said to have defrauded General Bamai at the Kirikiri maximum prisons, where he and the other fraud suspects were on remand for various crimes. The EFCC claims that the suspects had fraudulently collected the money from General Bamai in parts, falsely claiming that the payments represented the professional fees charged by Mr. Afeba Balola to handle Bamai's case in court and to facilitate his release from prison. The anti-graft agency also alleged that Judua and others fraudulently claimed that $1 billion, beg your pardon, out of the total money collected from Bamai was for financial assistance for the treatment of Justice Olubunmi Oyewale's father. Justice Oyewale was then presiding over Bamai's case in court. Justice Ipaye adjourned till February the 12th for the arraignment, ordering that a warrant of production should be served on the prison authority to produce Ajudua at the next hearing date. And away from the courts now, Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has called for a more active collaboration with civil society organizations to help correct the lingering issues of accountability in the oil and gas industry. Constituting a 15-man committee in Abuja, Mrs. Ahmed said the activists would advance the reforms in the sector, as well as create more channels for monitoring towards enthroning greater transparency in the system. Against the backdrop of the recent $49.8 billion controversy between the NNPC and the central bank, she noted that the saga only confirms several reports released by NATI.
The trend and the pattern is the same, and the civil society, as they get more informed and we engage them more, they understand the issues, they will be able to intervene at the best of times. Things are not all well in the oil and gas sector, that revenues that are due to the Federation are not all flowing to the Federation as they are supposed to. There is a need for us to bring out these issues, to discuss them, to identify what the problems are, and to cause whoever is responsible to begin to make corrections. We require accountability in the oil and gas and the mining sectors in this country.
In part two, after the break, more Nigerians back move to hold national dialogue. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.